Okay, so welcome to this morning's webinar on delivery charges. Most of you probably know who I am, but if you don't, I am, according to the slide, the official expert, and I'm Andy, and I'm the CEO of ProspectSoft. So just going to cover a few things today. First of all, I'll just give you a few tips. Some of these things are blindingly obvious, but sometimes the blindingly obvious is still worth stating. And just a little bit of experience from having helped customers set up delivery charges over the years. We're then going to look at the basics of delivery charges and just enforcing a delivery charge so that salespeople don't forget to at least think about delivery charges on quotes and orders. And then we'll look at the process of automating the calculation of those delivery charges by the address of the orders being shipped to, and creating delivery zones for those, and then by the value of the order, etc. We're also going to have a quick look at assigning special or free delivery to key accounts. That's always important. And then how to control who can and who can't manually override those delivery charges. And then I've just got a few practical tips for anybody who hasn't yet set up delivery charges, or has only got the very basic option set and wants to get the automated calculations going and build that up. So first of all, 3 basic strategy tips. The first one, as I say, is blindingly obvious. Customers don't like delivery charges. And so the key to that is simply to avoid them wherever you can. You know, if you do need to charge for delivery, obviously, you know, the cost of shipping goods is a real cost. And it's often important that you do recover those delivery charges. But if you do need to do that, then first of all, go for simplicity. Avoid too many scenarios, too many ifs and whens, and have transparency so that customers can understand the charges that they're going to face. Customers hate, you know, the idea that the delivery charge might change, or that when you finished entering the whole order, you'll then tell them, you know, what the possible delivery charges are. And I know that a lot of perhaps accounts people rather than salespeople who might approach this would try and look at the real cost of delivery. So, you know, what does the courier actually charge me? The problem with that is that those real life charges are usually very fine grained and impossible to explain to your average customer. You might understand them, maybe, probably not, but your customer certainly won't. So you really need to create a simpler model of that. And, you know, mutually beneficial delivery charges that the customer can understand why you're doing it and what, you know, how you're trying to benefit them are really important. And the obvious one of those is, you know, it is £20 delivery in this zone or £30 in this zone or whatever, but you get free delivery if you spend over a certain amount, or at least a reduced delivery if you spend over a certain amount. So if we're going to try and avoid delivery charges, the first question is, you know, what are the scenarios in your business where financially the delivery charge is actually irrelevant? Is it that in the local area you've got so many vehicles going out all the time that actually one incremental order makes no difference, in which case you can make free delivery in your local area? Or is it that over a certain amount of value, there's likely to be so much margin and profit on an order that you don't need to charge delivery? Or is it key accounts who just spend a fortune all the time, and that, you know, irrelevant of whether they're ordering big orders or small orders, the amalgam, the average order value is going to be big enough that across the spectrum you don't need to charge delivery, or you could just charge a flat rate for them perhaps, or something like that. And so if we've identified the scenarios where the cost is irrelevant against the profit you're making, then in those scenarios where it isn't irrelevant, where you do need to charge a delivery, we need to look at creating a simplified set of rates and options. So, you know, if the delivery charge from your 3 different couriers is based on mileage, and the charge is slightly different depending on which courier you use on that day, or whether you're shipping whole or half pallets, with 6 different delivery slots. Like, those options may be important to you, and that fine grain charging may be important to you and to them, but you need to simplify that and create a simplified model that your customer can understand, with maybe just 3 bands and 2 time slots, or even just 1 band. It's £20 in this area, and it's free if you spend a certain amount more. So those are really my tips to get you started. As I say, they're fairly obvious, but certainly worth considering when you're planning this. If we then get into actually applying this in the CRM, there's a few things we want to look at. First of all, how do we enforce some sort of delivery charges and make sure that delivery charges are being considered? How do we automate those, the model that we've created in terms of those different zones and the different charges? How can we apply exceptions? And how can we control the manual overrides that we've got going on? So here's a sales order that I've set up in true Blue Peter fashion. This is all for Brown's Cabling Services. So if we go to this sales order, at the moment, I've just got 5 reams of paper for £10. This is a £50 order. And we've got no delivery charges set up at the moment, so it's not really offering me anything in the way of delivery. And if I go to the address page, you'll see that there is a delivery charges panel, but it just says delivery charges not configured. And that's the kind of starting point if you haven't yet configured any of your delivery charges. So let's go to our settings. And if you go to the settings window and search for delivery, then you'll find the delivery charges options. And the first option allows you to configure manual delivery charge entry. So by default, that's disabled. I'm going to turn that on for all users. I'm going to say that the value can be 0. So users have to put a delivery charge in, but they can enter a 0 value delivery charge. And you can see I've already configured it here, but in order to get the VAT rules, etc., applied to the delivery charges in your country, then you actually need to set up a product in your ERP or inventory management system and give that the kind of right VAT options, and then choose it here and just select the product, search for the product and select it, so that we can then use that product just to get the VAT rules and things like that. Depending on whether your ERP or inventory management system actually supports a specific delivery charge value on the order header, that product will also then be used potentially for writing delivery charge in. So if you're using something like Unleashed, it's got a specific delivery charge field, and we'll write the delivery charge into that. If you're using something like Sage, for instance, or Pegasus, whatever, that doesn't have that, then you'll get an extra line added to your sales order when it's written into your ERP with a new line on it using this product for manual delivery charge. There are some other options that we're going to look at in a second to do with automated calculations, etc. But I'm just going to tick these 2 boxes as well, because I think this is, if you're doing delivery charges, you'll probably want to select this. So these 2 options will cause the software to actually ask the user to select or confirm their delivery charges at various points. So this will actually pop up a window and get them to confirm the delivery charges that are being charged before confirming an order or before sending an email or creating a quotation. So if you're going to send this as a quote to the customer, you want to get the delivery charge right first, then tick that box. If you're not bothered about that, you can untick it. If you want the salespeople to check the delivery every time before they confirm an order, then you want to tick that. And I'll kind of show you what those do in a second. The one other simple option that I'll just tick on just to kind of show you what it does at this stage is allow no delivery. So if you tick that, you'll just get an extra option that comes up that just says, choose this to say there's no delivery, either because the customer's collecting it or whatever. Okay, so we've set a few delivery options there. Let's go back to our sales order. And here, again, we've got a £50 order. No delivery's been set at the moment. And if I, for instance, either go to confirm this order or send an email, I again get a pop-up window that asks me to confirm the customer order reference if I'm going to confirm it, confirm the delivery address, and then it gives me the options to enter a delivery charge, and I can fill that in there. The alternative, if I don't want to do that, I can just go to the address pane and select my delivery charge in here. So I can, for instance, give this a £5 delivery charge, and then you can see that I'm now charging this customer £50 for the goods and £5 for delivery, which gives me a subtotal of £55. And then because we set up a VATable product, there's VAT on the whole of that. Okay, so that's a kind of basic delivery charge. So I've just set it so that every time I go to confirm an order or send an email, it asks me to confirm the delivery and either put in a manual delivery charge or set no delivery. And put that back to 0. I'm going to cancel that and do it here because I don't actually want to confirm this order yet. So let's send that back to 0. And now we've removed our delivery charge again. Okay, let's go back to our settings. So you could see that I was able to set that delivery charge back to 0 because I've got this tick box selected saying the value can be 0. If I unselect that, then I won't be able to enter a 0. So if you want the salespeople to enter a delivery charge with an order every time and you don't want that to ever be 0, then you can deselect that option and then they'll be forced to put in a valid value and obviously they'll then have to enter something. You can turn that off and then still allow 0 collection or no delivery charge. And what that means is that if they put in manual delivery charge, they'll have to put a price or they have to actively select no delivery. I'm just going to turn that one off now for simplicity. And I'm going to turn on automatic delivery calculation. So obviously, we could just set up manual delivery charges and just be prompting the users to enter their delivery. And if they know what your delivery rules are, they can kind of put that, or they can horse trade with the customer about delivery charges. But for a lot of companies, they actually want to apply a delivery charge model and some delivery charge rules. So we've got two options for that. One is standard, where you're using the logic that is built into the CRM system, albeit that you can then configure a whole load of options to drive those standard delivery charges, and I'll show those in a second. If those are no good for you and you've got some particularly complex requirement to use all sorts of data from the system, you know, a combination of price, weight, who the customer is, what company type they are, whatever, then it is possible to do a custom calculation, but obviously that will require custom code to be written that will then get triggered at the point of confirming an order in order to calculate the possible delivery charges by whatever that combination of rules you've created. But I would strongly caution most customers against that. As I say, you know, customers don't like complex delivery charges, and it's best to have a relatively simple model, even if that means that on some orders you win on the delivery charge and some you lose. Just as long as overall you're making a profit in your business, that's still a good thing if the customers have got simple delivery charges. So let's go for standard, and you then get an option to apply those standard delivery charges for all users or just for administrators. And I'll talk about why that's useful in a little bit. So at the moment we'll leave that for all users, and we'll first of all just go into the sales order and show you what that does before I worry about exactly how to configure it. So here we are, we've got our £50 order, and if I go into the address and go to the delivery charges, I've now got some various options. So I've still got the manual delivery charge that I can enter, but I've got standard delivery and I've got next day delivery. So next day is £45, standard delivery is 25, or I can manually override the calculation and put in some, random or negotiated value if I want to. So let's go for standard delivery at £25, and that's now put the delivery charge to £25 on my £50 order, so giving me a subtotal of £75. One thing that I do want to draw your attention to is that this quote is £50 away from a £15 delivery discount. So that's a warning that's come up to highlight to my sales team that if they get the customer to buy £50 more goods, then the delivery charge will reduce by £15. So that's the delivery charge calculations in action. Let's go and have a look at how that's configured and what the various options are. So let's go to our automatic calculations, and there's a hyperlink here, click to configure. So I've already configured some delivery charges, but I'll show you how that's done and how we can change it. So first of all, I've got a next day delivery option, which is £45, and there's no minimum order value for that. I can choose £45 next day delivery on any order I like. But it's important to note, and this option is £45 charge is restricted to the mainland UK, excluding the Scottish Highlands. And that is a delivery zone which has been created. And I've got then two standard delivery options, one for mainland UK and one for Ireland. So I just clicked on the zone there. So one for mainland UK and one for Ireland. In the mainland UK, it's £10. In Ireland, it's £20. But you did notice that the delivery charge was actually £25, and again, there was that header warning telling me that I could reduce the delivery charge by £15. So the way that £25 is calculated is it's the £10 charge for standard delivery, but there's a minimum of £100 to get to that price. So I have to have an order value of at least £100 to get that value. And if I've got an order of less than the minimum value, then there is a surcharge added of £15. So I got to that £25 with my £10 plus my £15. And if I get the order value over the minimum 100, then the delivery will reduce by £15. And perhaps a more common scenario might actually be to make standard delivery £0, so free delivery, if I reach my minimum order value, or if not, then I would have to pay, say, £20 delivery charge. There's actually a whole load of other options as well. So you can say, for instance, whether next day delivery is actually available on a weekend, or maybe it's not even available on a Friday, or whatever. I'm not going to get into all the complicated options, but there we go. We've changed it now. So it's free delivery if I order more than £100 and £20 surcharge for less than that. If I just briefly talk about these delivery zones. So if I go into configuring this standard delivery option, I can choose what delivery zone that applies to. And there's a few kind of obvious configurations. So I can just do Ireland, mainland UK, Northern Ireland. I could create a delivery zone for Europe, or Northern Europe and Southern Europe. I could create a delivery zone for the rest of the world, or I could actually sort of break, just down into specific areas that, have been defined, as being all the kind of postcode areas within my main delivery routes for my own vans. And then area 2 is where I can send a UPS courier to, or whatever that might be. So you can get into quite a lot of complexity here. As I said several times now, I would avoid too much complexity where you can. But if you do need to get into configuring those delivery zones, you can just click on the configure, and then I can go and add a new delivery zone. And for each of these delivery zones, I can either apply it to a specific country. So in this case, I should apply Ireland if Ireland was set up as one of my countries, or in the case of this mainland UK, I've specified the outcodes, the postcodes that make up that zone, and you can go to different postcodes for Scotland and Northern Ireland, etc. So you can configure that sort of by country, by postcode, to create your various delivery zones. And then, as I say, when you're creating a delivery option, you can then apply that to a delivery zone. The other thing I'll just very briefly mention is that you also get to choose the product that is applied for that delivery option. So if you did want different products being applied to each delivery option, you can do that as well. So we've gone and changed this now to free delivery for less than £100 and £20 for more than that. So if we return to our sales order, I'm just going to refresh this slightly, just make sure we've got the right details. And if I now go to the delivery options, you can see that that is £20, or I can go for next day, or I can go for standard. So that is standard is £20, and we are £50 away from a £20 discount. So let's put a bunch more of those on, and it's now highlighting that the delivery charge may need recalculating. Obviously, if I were to try and confirm that order, it would pop up and ask me to do that, or I can just click on the info and it'll come down here and say, right, let's recalculate those delivery charges. And now it's offering me free delivery because I'm now over that minimum threshold of £100. So the final thing that we'll just look at is if I just go to a customer record, so Ace Electrical Supplies, for instance, you can specify for a given customer a specific delivery zone. So obviously delivery zones typically are being used for the purposes of a geographical region. So I can create a delivery zone for the UK and Scotland, as we've just seen, and then one for Ireland. But I might also want to create a delivery zone that effectively represents just a group of customers or a set of delivery options rather than a geographical region. So I could create a delivery zone which is key accounts, and then I can set up the delivery options for my key accounts where maybe that minimum order threshold is reduced from £100 to £50, or where there's no minimum delivery, and I've just got free standard delivery and maybe a reduced rate for next day delivery or whatever. So you don't give a customer a custom delivery charge specifically. You actually give them a custom zone, and then within that zone you can create multiple delivery options. So actually that gives you much more flexibility, so that rather than saying this customer always gets free delivery, I can put them in a zone of key accounts and say that they get free delivery under £100, or they get free delivery under £100, or over £100, and they also do have an option of next day delivery, same as all the other customers. Final couple of things I just want to draw to your attention is that again, you can enable these calculations for all users or just administrators. You can configure the manual override to be available for all users or just for administrators, and obviously you can also disable that if you want to, so they can't put in a manual calculation. And there's the kind of catch-all at the bottom, because perhaps you want to just have a delivery charge that applies where none of your other options are valid. And so this allows me to just choose all other deliveries, for instance, and effectively then, if there are no delivery charges that are valid for the combination of postcode, country, etc., then this is the delivery option that will be offered, rather than simply having no delivery option for those scenarios. Okay, so quite a lot of configuration options. As I say, there is a custom setting if none of those fit, but I would strongly suggest that anybody who needs a custom calculation probably should try and simplify their delivery charges before trying to implement something like that. Okay, so there we've been able to enforce delivery charges by configuring that pop-up and making the users enter some sort of delivery, even if we're going to let them put in a 0 option. We've set up automated calculations by zone, by address, and by value. We've looked at how to assign a special or free delivery by setting key accounts a specific delivery zone. And obviously I could have key accounts 1 and I could have European key accounts with different zones and different charges. And we looked at kind of controlling the manual overrides by turning those off or making those for administrators only. So if you're going to go about setting up delivery charges and particularly calculated delivery charges, these are my kind of practical tips. So as a first step, I would just start by setting up manual calculations. That gives you the kind of minimum option so that users start getting prompted and have to put in some kind of delivery. The second thing I would do is I would create a small automated subset. So rather than trying to set up all your delivery zones and all your delivery charges before you've kind of got to grips with how it works, just go for one zone, just say the UK or just one region or whatever your local country is, and set up that delivery zone. As I say, I would always try and include a free for over a certain amount and then apply a surcharge if it's under that given amount. And initially, when you're rolling this out to your users, let them put in a manual override. And that's useful either if you've got your calculations wrong or your values wrong and the salespeople need to be able to confirm an order and just change it to what they know to be the correct value. But it also allows them to use manual delivery calculations for any of the regions that you've not yet set up. And then once you kind of build that up to be more comprehensive while still aiming for simplicity, you can then begin to restrict that manual override to administrators only. So once you're confident that your automated calculations are correct, you can then start to restrict the manual calculations so that users get that option taken away and have to use your calculated options. And obviously, you can very quickly reopen the manual override to users if you've misjudged the delivery calculations that are required, or if your delivery supplier suddenly changes and you haven't yet been able to go back and readjust all of your delivery charges. You can then fix that, and then obviously you can reapply the restrictions back to administrators only. Okay, so I hope that was useful, and if you need more help on any of this stuff, you can go to our YouTube channel, you can go to the Academy, and obviously you can also chat to us either using the chat in the application or by calling us or contacting our services desk by logging a ticket. And if you've got suggestions for the product or other delivery options that you would like adding, please feel free to go to the ideas portal and log those ideas with us. Okay, thank you very much for attending this morning's webinar. I hope you found that useful and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much.